Go ahead and tell a friend to tune in. But also, you could tune in live through the Facebook live stream on 1013 Raw FM. You could tune in on the TuneIn app. You can also tune in through Same Differences Facebook live stream and our YouTube live stream. So you have plenty of ways to watch and join the conversation live. Adrena, she's with us. Good afternoon, Adrena. Thanks for tuning in. All right. So we got so many topics. I'm going to let Neci pick which one we going to get into today. Neci, what we getting into?
We're going to get into the sensitivity of disasters.
So first, I do want to also say, condolences to anyone that may have lost a loved one in the past couple of days, because apparently there was some shootings and loss of life on both St. Croix and St. Thomas. So we want to say condolences, and we hope we want strength and guidance for all parties involved, because when a life is taken, it's not just one life affected. All right. So first, we're going to talk about the desensitization to disasters. And if you live in Florida, and you hearing us right now, you're one of the people we talking to, because I'll be dancing during the storm and it's never as bad as it look until somebody end up injured. For instance, Hurricane Helene, how long ago that was? Like 3-4 weeks ago, maybe? October 1st?
3 or 4.
Hurricane Helene's death toll topped 160 as the Southeast dug out from storm's devastation. 160 people. That's 160 families affected, possibly, right? Each. So that's mothers, sisters, brothers, aunts, uncles, nieces, homes destroyed. Yes, the property is less important than the life, but think about that. So are we becoming desensitized to loss of life due to storms because we just chalk it up as the kind of like a quote unquote act of God? Are we just seeing it so much that it doesn't affect us as much? What do you think here, Neci?
I just think, unfortunately, we just live in a time where everything is so publicized and so easily accessible to create an opportunity for trending topics. And, before, these acts or the photos and videos of these devastations was primarily distributed by social media, by journalism and the news outlets, is where we typically got that in the real time moment. So, people cope differently with different things. I mean, some people are doing it for clout and for views and for, their source of income. And other people just take it for like a puppy show, like we just say, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, but some people do take these things super seriously. They understand the devastation it can cause and how it can affect your family. But we do see that it just seems like it's just another day, another thing kind of situation. And it's just kind of, it's kind of scary, to be honest.
It is scary because I don't think we take it serious enough. And like, even if someone takes someone else's life, the first thing people think to do is pull out a camera and record it. Like, we've become a gore porn society, and that's scary. And we're not just talking about natural disasters either, right? Like, disasters and devastation happens all the time, yes. But it seems like it's so in our face and we have access to it constantly. It's like we no longer feel anything. You know what I mean? And I know COVID was some years ago, but I don't think people really process that just in America, that's not worldwide, because it affected us worldwide. It was a pandemic globally. I don't think we realize that over 1 million people in America lost their lives. Could you imagine over 1 million families lost someone? That's just in America, over 1 million. And like, after that changes a society. I think that we actually were affected in a deep way, because it's when we came out of it, yeah, we were ready to party and forget about it, but it seemed like the whole world needed a hug at the time. Like everybody was angry and, you know what I'm saying, being cooped up and confined. We just had all this tension and energy that we needed to release, but nobody actually addressed what we've been through.
Yeah, I agree. Almost like there needed to be like a mass continual counseling sessions that needed to be available for people to tap into, to kind of deal with those moments. And some people are still dealing with the aftermath of those moments as well. And then unfortunately, life continues, so you have to deal with that and the additional things that comes along the way as well.
True. Because even though when a disaster hits, you're not responsible for it, you still are responsible for dealing with the aftermath. You still have to pick up the pieces, and you know what I'm saying, there's search parties that happen and all this other stuff. You may feel responsible to reach out to neighbors and help them with what they're dealing with and all of that stuff. And I have noticed also disasters tend to bring us together, which raises a question like, why do we wait for after something devastating to happen to unite? That sucks in itself.
Because I just think that it just creates, I don't want to say create, but devastation has created an opportunity where everyone is in need of some type of help, and everyone is willing to accept that help. Normally in a day-to-day, not everyone even knows how to ask or are comfortable asking for help, right? And I'm not trying to say one over the other, but we just know that the help is needed on a larger scale. And we just don't want one foot in a basket. We know that our contribution doesn't go unnoticed or unwanted or unwavered, because people do need it in some type of way.
True. A comment in the Facebook live stream says, we had a passing in the family during the Milton storm, and I felt my fence is still down, but we still made the best of it before, during, and after, for the sake of the lives that have no choice to continue. That's beautiful. Well said, Adina. Why do you think there's a way, without a disaster happening, do you think there's a way that we could bring that unity and that village mentality without somebody having to die?
On a whole, you just mean us as a Black culture?
Let's say as a whole.
On a whole, I think that the opportunity is there for most. I think that exists, whether sometimes it's in your neighborhood, within your family, within your jobs, and so on and so forth. On a larger scale, collectively, usually those things are tied to organizations. If it's like, it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, that affects a lot of people. People join in and do those things. I think if it's there's a cause that creates us to unify, we can. I don't think there should be a cause. I think the cause should just be for the greater good of ourselves that we do it. But we know that we're selfish human beings, and we know that there's people who are generally selfish, and there's people who are generally givers, and there's people who abuse the system, and people who believe in enhancing the system. And it's just a balancing scale of which direction it could tip into that makes it, beneficial.
And on the topic of the selfishness of humans, we got another comment. I'm not sure people care about the lives others endure unless their life is at risk or gone. Man. Oh man, that's a harsh reality that we live in. And I fear that we may have to accept that as truth, as not just an opinion, because actions, right? When we look overall with everything that has happened, let's say within the past year, or let's say within the past hurricane season, we've had how many hurricanes, and they're still brewing, and I think we still got about a month left in the season. Like immediately after the cleanup begins and people are good, we're on to the next news cycle. And what I find, especially in America, since I live in Georgia, I find that lately the news cycle is full up of stuff that is not even taking place in America. Like it's full up of, Ukraine, Israel, trauma over there, with quote unquote the others. You know what I'm saying? And it makes me wonder, why are we doing that? Why are we not focused on right here first? Because like they say on the airplanes or the jetliners, right? Secure your own mask first before you try helping others. So why are we doing that? Is it bad to fix what's going on inside your house first before you reach out to the village?
No, I don't think it's wrong, but I think on a global scale for news outlets and media sources, they report on global trending topics, and it's not. And I don't want to. It's not just us. Like the other countries do the same in return. When we have trending topics in the U.S., they do broadcast those things as well. So it's not a a one-way street. But I do agree that there should be some, like you said, clean up your house first before you help others kind of situation.
Mhm.
But let's just, for the sake of this, not everyone is a tidy person that's going to clean up their house, right?
Yeah.
Now, but maybe you're more able to help others than you're able to help yourself. There are people who are like that. It's such a, unfortunately, devastation creates such a mass amount of trauma that everyone can relate to it and understands the impact and has some type of ability to provide aid or assistance in helping someone better their situation that they just experienced. And even when the storms are past and we move on to the next topic, that's life, right? Life doesn't stop because a storm happened for us to wait for the entire effects of the storm to be dealt with 100%, and then we can move on. We have to continually know how to manage, multitasking is really important, unfortunately, but it is overwhelming too, and you could have lost so many things, your home and family life, or family members, I should say, or just family members alone. That is devastating. Even losing your home and everything that you built, that is traumatic to have to start over. It's just a lot. So life doesn't always give us an opportunity to be able to pause and just focus on one thing. I wish we could. It'd be so much more helpful, but that's the unfortunate reality.
Man. That's real, and you're right. You're right. Life does continue. What I know, as a person like so many out there that has lost someone, though, that'll be a traumatic part of your experience as well. The fact that things continue, even though you may feel stuck in this situation. Like when I lost someone dear to me, nothing was the same for me. It felt like I was numb. I was going through the motions, but life continues, right? So I'm going to work, but I'm not really there. And, everybody moving at what seemed to be a faster pace than I was. Colors lost their color or their brightness. Food didn't taste as good anymore because I was truly affected. But everyone else, it was like nothing changed. You know what I'm saying? So I felt like I stood out in this picture that was a blur, is the best way I can explain it. Everything else was moving around me while I was stuck in place. And I think that's a part of the trauma too, that feeling that, man, everybody just going on like nothing, like there's not a ripple effect or anything that has happened in the world that has changed when you're devastated and you're stuck in your position at that time. But sorry to cut it off right there, but hey, we gotta take a break to pay some bills. Keep it locked right here on the number one station in the U.S. Virgin Islands, 101.3 Row FM. Do not change that dial. We'll be right back after a short break. Keep it locked. It's a different day with Jah and
Neci.
All right, keep it locked. You chat while I saying. If you're in the chat right now and you can hear my voice, please go ahead and share this live. Please go ahead and share the live. Tell your friends, other people may want to see and join the conversation, and we want them to. Go ahead and share this live for us, please. We'd appreciate it. Let's see what they're saying in the chat, shall we?
Sure. We're just, talking about how, like Stephen Drina says, every year I'm processing my grief differently.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a real thing. And that we have to anticipate. I think I had mentioned it last week where, we never question when we have an abundance of positivity or good deeds that's coming our way. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't, but I'm just saying, grief is the flip side of that, where, we have to experience that. And there's no one way to manage grief or to process grief. But denying the grief is, I feel like, the biggest detriment that we can do, where we pretend there isn't grief. We have to go through those feelings and go through those emotions and process through them. And, when they come up, we just have to embrace them and understand that it's a part of our cycle, that we're going to lose people that we love and we care about.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to process that feeling. And I think it's really, I always find for grief for me, when I'm in that process, even though I'm crying or I'm emotional, it's like, how would that person want me to use this energy for them? What do they live? How would they live? How would they want me to celebrate them?
True. Let's see. Jamal Burke, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us, man. Go ahead and weigh in on the conversation. What are your thoughts on what we've said so far? Good afternoon, Tanisha Doward. Jah, that one hit home hard, my son. You can hear it in your voice. It did. You know why it hit me so hard? Because I had never lost someone up until that point in my life that was close to me, that was really close to me. I had never experienced it. And the thing about it is, before you experience it, right, you're trying to connect with people on a level that you have never been. So you really don't understand it. So you're trying to connect with people that have been through grief, and you hit them with these words that are really shallow. But you don't know that the words don't mean anything because you've never felt it. So you say things like condolences, man, I'm so sorry for your loss. You say the things that you think you're supposed to say, when in reality, that person is just like, words are a paltry thing. They're small at that time. They don't mean much. Sometimes some people don't even want to hear the words. They just need a hug. They just need to know that they're still here for real, because they're so lost in their grief and what they're going through that, like, nothing really seems relevant. Like, why am I going to work when tomorrow I could just be gone? And those are some things that I had to deal with. So yes, it did actually hit me hard. Even talking about it, like, I go back there. You know what I'm saying? So this is me being vulnerable, I guess.
No, that's what it is. That's what it is. And it's true because, as we're talking about devastation from natural disasters and stuff, there's so many other ways that grief could be triggered. But I want to make sure that we're, tying it to that impact. Like, I think it was, if it wasn't Milton, that maybe it was Helene, where a mother lost her parents and her son, in one shot. They were on the roof and they were swept away. Like, one family lost 3 important people in one couple of hours from a storm, and that's really crazy to imagine, to lose them and then you lose them in a flood. It's not like you just was able, you got to wait for the bodies to be recovered. If they could be recovered, having a proper burial if possible. There's so many other things that goes with the devastation, the loss of your home, contacting your insurance and trying to salvage what you can, cleaning up the home, getting coats back and getting the home rebuilt if it's rebuildable. And there's just so much. And I just want to speak on that to say, as we should definitely be able to have our important documents somewhere safe at all times, the physical ones, and to keep pictures of them is somewhere stored in our phones or in our clouds or whatever. So if you do lose these things, you have the ability to rebuild your life in some type of fashion.
Hey, you're gonna have to repeat that when we back on air, because those are good points that the people need to hear about. You know what I'm saying? Like, in the Caribbean, they keep all their important documents under the mattress. Ain't in a safe. Your mother gate somewhere under her mattress.
Yeah. We're gonna be heading back there soon. How these banks moving too.
Marcus says, thank you for being vulnerable. You're welcome, because I don't do it often. I'm looking to get off this topic already.
But you know what though, that it's a real thing that we really have to talk about. It's a real thing that everyone is going to be impacted by, not just natural disasters, but just grief in general. And while we don't have to linger on the topic forever, we do appreciate you being vulnerable, because it shows that we all have some type of interaction or someone that we value, that if we lose them, how it would impact us. And it's the truth. It's a cycle, unfortunately. We weren't guaranteed to have anyone forever, even though we would love to.
That's true. That's facts. As unfortunate as that truth is, and as hard a pill as it is to swallow, it's what we deal with in life, because the only thing constant in life is change.
Very much.
What are you saying? What's going on, Darren? Thanks for joining. Should we recap now or wait till we go back on air?
No, we could. What are we recapping for? I'm sorry, I missed something.
For anyone that just joined the chat, what we're talking about, what we're talking about right now is have we become, as a people, not just our community, but as a human race, have we become desensitized to disasters? And not only, act of God type disasters, but like loss of life, stuff like that. Have we become desensitized to trauma? What are your thoughts on it? Tell us in the comments. Also, if you're just joining us, please go ahead and share the live so your friends can see this and they could join the conversation as well.
You know what I find too? I find people are desensitized to it until it hits their doorsteps.
Yeah. Why are we so selfish? You know what I'm saying? Why do we have to feel it before we feel it? But you know, that's one of the sayings in the islands: who feels it knows it, which it doesn't get truer than that, man. It's unfortunate, again, but it's true. Darren says, I think it started with World Star. You think so? Because World Star they were one of the first, I know, where it was like you could go viral for showing trauma. You know what I'm saying? For showing fights and, a body on the ground and stuff like that. So I don't disagree with him. And disaster is now a new form of entertainment. I don't even see my dad as an older man anymore. I've gotten to an age where he died as my now peer. Yet I still celebrate what would have been his birthday, knowing he isn't older than the age we are all passing now. Man. Dang. That's something you gotta come to grips with. How are you dealing with that? Does that make you think about your own mortality? Like, how do you process that when your birthday come around and you're a year older than your father was? Nothing I experience can I separate from death at this point. At this point, everything is as big of a deal as we make it. I think you gotta break that down for my slow mind.
Are you slow?
No, I just pretend to be. You gotta dumb it down sometimes and act slow.
No, but I think she made a good point. Sometimes even if you lose a parent early, and I said hopefully this is what I'm understanding is she's approaching the age where he passed, and the connection that is I don't even feel that old. And I'm not speaking on her behalf. I'm just saying, whatever that age is, this is a fairly young age to have passed and lose someone that could have been so instrumental in your life. And you just don't know. And all the shoulda, coulda, woulda that start to go through your mind, that you create the scenarios that you create to help you as well deal with the trauma, is another thing.
All right, we coming back in about 10 seconds. All right. That was Wanna Be Loved by Buju Banton. Thanks for joining us. It is Jah and
Neci.
and you've just joined us on a different day with Jah and Neci. Thanks for coming through. We were just on a break and we are on a Facebook live stream on both the Same Difference and 1013 Raw FM page. So in the chat and over the, well, off air, we were continuing a discussion that we were having regarding, are we becoming desensitized to disasters? Now, some points were made, and we want to make sure that our listening audience that's listening on the radio didn't miss out on them. So, Neci, you had made a good point about, some things you should do while you're trying to recover from a disaster. Can you list those again, please?
Well, it was really some things you should do before a disaster, which is have your information or copies of your information, secure documents somewhere safe. Taking pictures and putting them in a secure folder in your cloud storage. So in case your home gets flooded with water and you lose your physical documents, you do have copies of them somewhere where you can be able to access your bank information and so on and so forth, that you can retrieve them electronically at some point to have those. We know things happen unexpectedly. Sometimes you can be you can be overly prepared and the worst can still happen. So just taking the time to do that is important. And other thing that you should also take the time to do is teach your children your correct name, their address where they live, and your contact phone number.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh, but and his or her correct name.
His or her, correct. I'm sorry, his or her correct name, where you live, and your correct and your phone number.
And your
that's not even for disasters. That's literally on a whole. And I give that example because a few weeks ago, I ran into a young boy, and he did not know. It was a very brief disconnect from his parents. But he did not know his mother's name, and he was like on the verge of crying. He didn't know her number, and he didn't even know how to describe what she was wearing or where he lived. Now, it was quickly resolved in a matter of a few minutes. Nothing that alerted the authorities or anything like that. I'm not going to say where it happened or so forth to put any, people that could go investigate or anything, but it just reminds me that, carnival season is approaching as well as our busy season. Children always getting lost in the village and all kind of stuff. They be on the stage looking for so-and-so parents. Some of these kids, they could play on the iPad and pop these games and know how to decline calls and stuff. We need to be able to teach our kids how they can get in touch, how someone can get in touch with them if they're ever misplaced, how they can be contacted. I think that's super important.
Having children know the emergency contact numbers, even depending on the age, teaching them CPR, teaching them where they should go to in case of a fire, stuff like if the house is damaged, where should they go? So should the house be out of order, where can they go? So you know where to meet them later on. And I'm Mr. Controversial, so I have to say this. And Caribbean people don't take my Caribbean card, but Nana and Papi need to know that's not their real names. Okay? They need to know their real ones. And underneath your mother's mattress is not a secure storage vault. All right? All right. Go ahead. Go ahead, Lexi.
Someone said children get lost in it. Yes, every year in the village, there's some child on the stage that says so-and-so is looking for their mother. If you're missing your child is here backstage. I have yet to be to a village that a child has not gone missing. And of course, we're a very resourceful community and so forth, but I mean, these kids should know these things. And another good example of why you should do this is something could happen at home. And these kids need to provide information to first responders to get the help that you may need. You could have maybe you passed out while you were cooking, or some of us are in medication and maybe we didn't take our medication in time. Some of these kids don't know what to do.
True.
And what to say. in order to help. So I listened to a call with a young lady. She was 5 years old, and I should have thought of that before so we could have played it. She had so much at 5. She had so much detailed information to give 911, and that it blew my mind away. The first responder keeps saying, "Are you sure you're 5?" And she said, "Yes, my birthday is so and so and so." She had so much information about her mom's situation. And her dad, she knew what a bullet was. She knew what a gun was. She knew what to do if it happened. And they were able to come to she knew to secure the animal that was in the house for them to come inside. She knew what the police was supposed to look like. She had such great information. I think we need to really think about this. More than one reason why they need to learn this.
Now, I know in our eyes as parents, we will always see our children as our babies, right? But don't underestimate how intelligent these younger ones are. When y'all saying things like, "Oh, they've been here before," sometimes it feels that way. You know what I'm saying? So treat them as such. You know what I mean? And obviously I don't mean with everything. There's such a thing as age appropriate. But when it comes to disasters, now you may be asking, Jah, Neci, these aren't disasters. Trust me, if you lose your child, that will be a disaster. All right. And another thing that I heard earlier this week from a guest that was on the Bush Tina Money show with DJ SI, I think this is important also. Please teach your children a code to verify adults that are allowed to be around them. It may seem weird, but it's good. Like if you have somebody that needs to go pick up your child, you're not always available. You may not always be available. That's something we have to come to grips with for whatever reason, right? It may just be work. If you're going to send your friend or whatever, have your child learn a code to verify that that person is somebody that you're sending. That could really prevent something disastrous from happening.
Yeah, I agree. I agree tremendously. I even remember when my niece was fairly young. She was fairly young. I think she had to be like 3 or something, maybe 5 or 6. And she was with someone, and they were bringing her to my house. And at the time where I lived was up a fairly dark. There was 2 dark roads that you had to take to get to my house. Very unlit. There was trees like hovering over whatever. And she was giving in directions to her auntie's house. And when I say they were so unsure of where they were going, but she was so confident, like, no, this is the way to my auntie's house. And she was 1,000% correct. And they could not believe that she knew how to get to my house from where they started from. And even as St. Croix, I think I think it's a good test as parents. Ask your kids to describe how to get home. And see if they know how to describe their way. Give them a starting point. If you was at Sunny Isles, how would you get home? Or wherever you may live, how would you get home? And see if your kids actually know the way to get home. If they're going to pass, what are they going to pass? What roads are they going to take to turn? And see if they have any of that information. It's super important. Maybe the kid got on the wrong school bus and the child ended up someplace they weren't supposed to be. That could possibly happen too. So I think it's super important that we just take a moment to really pound those important things into our kids. Just like they take the time to learn these cell phones and iPads and every show they can find on YouTube, they could do the same thing.
Thanks. I know we look at every generation like they're getting soft or whatever, but they're smarter, I think, and they have access to more information, which is a fact, than we did. So let's not underestimate the generation that we're raising, and give them the opportunity to show us. Because for whatever reason, when I was 8, I was catching the bus from Aradias going to Pueblo and Lorraine to get groceries. You know what I'm saying? And I had to come back with the correct change. So, obviously my daughters weren't doing that, but maybe I could have done a little bit better with that than myself. So it's not that we're condemning anyone. We're just saying, these are good tips and tricks. If you haven't already, maybe you can institute it. It's never too late, but just, give it some thought. So before the break, we were talking about loss. And there was a comment from Adrina in the comments that I think was good, and I'd like to touch on. I don't even see my dad as an older man anymore. I've gotten to an age where he died as my now peer. Yet I still celebrate what would have been his birthday, knowing he isn't older than the age we are all passing now. Nothing I experience can I separate from death at this point. At this point, everything is as big of a deal as we make it. He passed at 37. I am just turning 30 next year. It never seemed like something that would matter until I celebrated my sister's 37th birthday this year. So keep in mind, and when we come to the end of the show, there's something about loss that I want to say also. But with that, keep in mind that when disasters happen, loss unfortunately happens. So these are things that I think it's important that we think about, because our people, our village, our community, they're dealing with these types of things, dealing with the fact that I or my sibling or, someone close to me is passing the age another one of my parents or somebody in my life had passed away at. You know what I'm saying? Because I myself, at my age, I'm also considering my own mortality and trying to do things differently and, eat better and stuff like that. Because at 20, you didn't care because you felt like you were immortal. But we need to start thinking about these things, not because we want to be obsessed with death or our mortality, but because we want to live better and live longer. What do you think about that?
No, I think I agree with you. I think we all need to know that as we go through the different, that's why I think, the different age groups, you have your singular years, you have your teen years, your 20s to 30s. As you go through your different decades of your life, you should be a changing, evolving person for the most part. That adds to your growth, that adds to your health, improving your health, your longevity, your overall self-awareness and being. I think we should be building on those things and continually to do so. Someone said, in terms of a previous comment where we talked about, you said you went to the grocery store, they was like, isn't that considered abuse that the child is going to the grocery store?
Hold on a second. Hey, keep it locked right here. We'll be right back on a different day with Jah and Neci.
You forgot you were running out of time?
No, I didn't expect you to transition into the comment but hey, that's cool. That comment is controversial. What happened? Who abused me?
No, they were saying that if it's considered abuse for you to be going to the grocery store at that age, and I want to say no. America is one of the only countries that babies their children for a long period of time, and I don't mean it in any parent how you want to parent, cuddle and hold your kids as you want, but most countries teach their children self-sufficiency. In Japan, when kids start to go to school at the age of 5, they wear different colors, so you know what age group they belong in, but they go catch the train to go to school, and people help them to make sure they're going to the right place. But it gives them a sense of self-dependency. Now, is it too much? Maybe it is, exactly. Because we're not accustomed to that behavior for our children. Because in the United States, we know child kidnapping is a huge thing. So we're not going to just let the 5-year-olds go to the train by themselves. But other countries do other things that create self-sufficiency for their own children to teach them certain things. And there was also a comment about, should your children know what prescriptions you're taking? I don't think they need to know the prescriptions, but they should know if there's a medical condition that they can relay that to 911 if something does happen and say, hey, my parent has so and so, I don't know, that's why they're not feeling well. So that they have some type of information to give to the EMTs when they're on the way of what they could possibly be looking for. And then the EMTs will look for whatever prescription and they'll be able to decipher what it is. Because we know prescription names aren't easy to say. But if they have an idea what your medical condition is, that's important.
So I also want to weigh in on these. Let me start with the first one. What just happened? Hello? Neci? Okay. So I want to weigh in on these. Let me start with the first one. Isn't that abuse to be that age and going to the grocery store? No. I would never consider that to be abuse. Was it responsible? Maybe not. But also, we're from a different era, and these things were less of a concern than them. As far as like trafficking and stuff like that was definitely less of a concern, and we were a tighter knit community, so my mother felt more comfortable doing that. So it's definitely not abuse. Should your child know what prescriptions you take? If so, what age? I would not want to say a particular age because everyone learns at a different speed. People mature faster. Our brains are just different. I would say you would know if your child is at an age to where you can tell them about the prescriptions. Do you necessarily need to tell them the name of it and expect them to remember it? No, because I could barely remember the names of mine when I'm asked at the doctor. You know what I'm saying? Like you maybe could mark them in a certain color or something. So the child knows this is important for mommy or daddy. You could do that, or for grandma. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't necessarily need to do it this way or by this age. Everybody is different. So I would never say this is the appropriate age and this is when you should do it. I wouldn't say that. Also, I'm not a trained doctor or first responder to be saying something like that. We got Adrina, who is also, my husband and I sell life insurance and Medicare. We have heard a lot of situations with our clients that we have learned are just options and possibilities, whether good or bad. This is Darren, I also had to grieve the non-active parent and know even as you forgave them and want to start a relationship, they are who they are and you have to accept it and keep them out of your life for peace. Not sure where exactly that one was in reference to. Marcus Norman asked, children get lost in village all the time. Village is packed. If they get lost in the grocery store and they get aisles, why not in the village? Ja, how old you be again? I'm not old enough to be on Medicare, and I am not old enough to be in, and I'm too old to be at Frontline.
You are not too old to be at Frontline.
No, I'm too old to be at Frontline and not old enough to be on Medicare. How about that? Darren says, I think it is abuse. He said he thinks. I got to tap into this again. All right, we coming back. Yep. What's going on? Thanks for tuning in to a different day with Jah and
Neci.
We're there with another several topics. Thank you for tuning in and spending your Sunday or a part of your Sunday with us. So what we were talking about were, are we desensitized to disasters? And we went into quite a few things, but we're gonna just touch on some of the comments right now. So I had told a story about how I, at my younger age at 8, I was going to the grocery store and buying groceries, and I knew how to count the money and had to bring back exact change and all of that there at 8. Should your child be doing that now? Probably not. But certain things we should be allowing our children to do and know, like the numbers to 911, how to do CPR at certain ages. There should be things like codes for people to pick them up if you need to send a friend or family member to come get them that they can verify, stuff like that. So we got some questions in the chat that we touched on that you may be unaware of if you're not on the Facebook live stream. Marcus Norman asked, should your child know what prescriptions you take? If so, what age? I was saying that your child may not need to know, depending on the age, what the exact prescription is, but you can at least put some sort of color code. You could mark on it. You could do something, do a squiggly line or something that they can recognize as this as being important, depending on the age. Should something happen, God forbid, should something happen and a first responder need to know. So you don't want for something to happen and first responders show up and then they give you something that you're allergic to or whatever because of an illness or what's it called? Because of Yes, a pre-existing condition that you have. So you don't necessarily need to have your child memorize the prescription names because those are hard to pronounce for adults. But maybe you could put a red circle on it so they know this is an important one. A triangle or something they could recognize. Okay, this is important. Somebody needs to see this.
Or even, even for us, when we used to, I mean, I don't know, but our mom put it in the fridge. You put a paper in the fridge with who to call and a number, and you can put whatever the medications are there and what the medication is for. These kids are twice as smarter than we were, just because they have so much access to so much data so quickly that they are developing at a faster pace. And these are things that they can absolutely do within their capability. Even if they don't memorize it, knowing where to go to find the information, if they need to give it to someone, they know where it is. Like I said, a paper that's on the fridge, with the important contact information and so forth. Even just doing that is helpful, because these kids need to be able. We don't want to only assume that things are going to happen to our kids, but we're the one that has to respond. But sometimes it might be the kids that have to respond on our behalf.
True. So a comment says, save a list of the prescription, the name, dosage, quantity per month, with all the important documents, please. That's something you can do also. Don't just assume that if something happens to you, somebody will be there. That's another thing. So I'm going to ask you, our listening audience, is it abuse? Because like I said, I told a story off air about how at 8, I used to go to the grocery store. Is that abuse at that age to send your child to the grocery store? What are your thoughts? And you can tell us in the comments as well how you feel about that. Oh, man.
I don't think it was abuse. Would I say that we had a lot of responsibility on our shoulders? Absolutely. Was it too much at times? Absolutely. Should some of it have been on our shoulders? Absolutely not.
Okay.
But I do think teaching some aspect of responsibility is important. Teaching them how to do certain, like you said, you knew how much things cost. You knew how much change you were supposed to bring back. You were learning math. You're learning how to do. You're following routes, just like how when you're driving now, you're able to follow directions and know when to turn or when not to turn. It's a life skill. If something was to happen today, a lot of these kids without technology cannot function. So we're the last breed we're the last breed of people that can function without technology, because we were the hybrid of not having it and growing into it. These kids would not know what to do without technology. We would be the one having to assist them with things to help them if that ever happened. Not wishing for it to happen, but just as an example, we're the last of our kind. Everything else is technologically based. But you understand? I mean, I don't want to sound like we're extinct or something, but we grew up without, and at some point when we became young adults, we were introduced to the aspects of technology and learning how to use that.
True. Correct.
They just naturally grew up in technology.
Correct. So they never had to experience some life without it. So now they freak out when they don't have it. I understand.
So no, we're not extinct, and we're not going extinct. I'm just trying to draw reference.
No, I got you. Imagine telling your kids your prescription is treating a STD. Now, why would you need to tell them? Like, just tell them it's antibiotics. Do you need to tell them why? I don't know. I mean,
why you read that though? That's where we're gonna go. Why you read that?
Because it's funny. I like stupidness. That's why I read it, because I like stupidness.
Clearly, and as stupidness, we're segued into our next topic.
What's our next topic, Neci? Tell the people.
Oh, I started. You gotta pick the next one. Let's go.
Oh, I gotta pick the next one? Okay. We got a bunch of them. All right. What is happening?
Drop rolling.
Oh, okay. All right. Our next one. I think we need to talk about this. Is this too heavy? I wonder about a reason why Black men in our community might be angry. Since we talk about parenting, what do you think?
We can do it.
Let's do it. All right. So listen up, people.
When I was in therapy, he said, tell me about your father. And I said, I'm angry because he left. I watched him leave my mother and marry another woman with 3 kids, and he become an all-American dad to them. And I'm his only son. Why did I have to deal with it? And I'm sharing that so you can say what you're angry about. And you may never get that apology, but brother, you got to deal with that anger, because if you don't, it's going to turn to rage. So I want to give you this opportunity for those that have it, yell it out. Father, I thank you for this brother that's standing in this room. This brother that stood and says, I admit I'm wrestling with anger right now. Father, give them a peace that surpasseth all understanding to start the process of healing with this anger that sometimes can be uncontrollable.
All right. So this video actually hits different for me because as a child that grew up without a father in the home, it did create anger issues for me, anger issues that I still deal with to this day.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
got you. So basically, they were allowing space for this brother to express his anger as to why he was so angry. And the reason why is because he watched his father leave his mother for a woman that had 3 children, right? So, and then after he left his mother for the woman with 3 children, all of a sudden he's an all-star dad now. He's the picture of ideal father that he never gave to this only son, right? So, like I was saying, that hits a little different for me because I came up without a father in my house, and there were a lot of questions. I don't know if y'all out there remember, but you should. The older generation, I know they do. They even remade it for the new Bel-Air. But remember that Fresh Prince of Bel-Air episode where Will's father came back into his life and made all these promises, and then he left, and Will just broke down like, why you don't want me, man? To Uncle Phil, who had been his father figure, and I took him in and was raising him. You know what I'm saying? Like, those types of things, it's questions that children have for real. Like, they do take on those things. So while we're out here talking about, being single parents and trying to make it seem like it's okay to be a single mother or a single whatever, we tend to forget or neglect the fact that there's a child with questions, with abandonment issues, that may grow up with anger issues from having to deal with things. Like, these issues get instilled in children when there's a mother, daughter, father, son dance that they don't have a parent to go with. That affects them. And I think we neglect that sometimes. And it can leave children, and I think it's a contributing factor to why in our community, a lot of Black men, the only emotion they express well is anger. And it comes out in a terrible way, and it's atrocious. And then make it worse, it ends up being inflicted on the people that they're closest to. So what do you think about that?
I think he has a really valid point. You can only imagine for him and so many others like him that have to experience that, looking and seeing that your parent abandoned you in whatever way, but then become a stellar role model to someone else's children on the other side. And then it just gives the question, like, what's wrong with me? And then you have that question on your forehead your entire life that you use to build this anger that you're not releasing. Because you have no resolve and there's no resolution. So I think it's a very the question is very valid. I think it's very real. And just so the listening audience is aware, that question was posed to a group of Black men. It looked like it was at a convention of some sort where they were having that discussion about releasing your anger. And they kind of went through different topics and different scenarios and allowing men to just be in those moments in that room where they cried and screamed and shouted and they wrote down the things they wanted to say, and they went through a few scenarios of trying to release that energy from them. And I think it's so important that that happened, and I hope that continues to happen on a bigger scale, a larger scale, and that more men or young men or men in general tap into that. Why am I angry, and find a way to release that, because anger is an emotion, but that's not the only one that you can exhibit.
Awesome. All facts, Neci. Thank you for that. Now we're gonna take another short break because we gotta pay these bills. And we thank all of our advertisers for keeping us on the radio. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with another different day with Jah and
Neci.
Peace. All right, that was awesome. So thank you for that. That was deep. I like that.
You're welcome.
Check.
And I'm kind of just in this chat. I'm just like, we're gonna have to
Go ahead.
take this into another conversation as well.
What do you mean?
There's just so much. I'm just reading some of the comments that's happening. You know, someone says, Jamal says, I'm an only child by my father, and we had a very rocky relationship. And I feel my son, grandmother holds that against me, and I'm fighting to be in my son's life. So right now for him, this is a third generational trauma that's happening on his behalf. Where now his son is experiencing not for lack of, but for just a lack of trauma, right? Darren also said, my father not being present made me angry too. He made a lot of promises that were not kept. We know how that's sitting on the doorstep waiting for them to come get you.
Yep.
That never happens feeling that so many kids had to experience, how that is trauma inducing. Those little breadcrumbs just accumulate into a hefty weight inside of you.
Mm-hmm. Now, because we have our own thing, I could actually, me and Neci could do something that other radio stations may not be able to do. We can invite you guys on our podcast to talk about this thing. If this needs to be a deeper, more lengthy conversation, let us know if you want to do a podcast episode on this, and we could continue the conversation then. All right, and we could go honestly as long as we need to, because this is something. How can women help the angry black men that we do care about?
And I did see that question. I was kind of holding until you got back on air.
Oh,
but
man.
It's a very valid question that she's asking.
My
There
bad.
is no one solution, but we can kind of dig into it a little bit more.
Okay. Jamal Burke says, I remember my first day of high school. I watched my pops drop his girlfriend kids to school while I waited for the school, and me and friends was like, damn. I wasn't even there, and I'm over here like, damn.
Yeah, I danced with her. As I said, I did the dance. You know? And that's why that's just one of those things, or one of the many things that sits in our kids, that accumulates over time because it's unaddressed, it's unresolved, and then it builds into something else. Usually never a positive thing, unfortunately.
True. When we come back, I'm going to play it again just to recap for anybody that just entered the chat. I didn't know how many people would have been moved by this. Now I do. You never really know which topic is going to hit until you actually do it. But thank you, fellas, for being vulnerable. Thank you, Adrina, for asking a very necessary question. Do I believe that is women's responsibility? We gonna win when we come back on air, but I gotta process that, because that's a big question. Really, it's bigger than some may think.
Very true. It's very, very true.
Listen, it's big. Allow him to release with judgment and never throw it in his face. Yeah, what Jamal had been like. It's unfortunate. At some jobs, I'm always late. Some jobs, I'm the first one there, and I'm clocking everyone behind me. LOL. I would hate for any of my jobs to take my behavior to them personal. As a person that may treat people differently based on how much I'm able to expend in certain seasons, it's heartbreaking that some people can take it personal and allow it to dim their light. I've considered allowing my daughter to live with her father, but I wouldn't want her to take it any damaging way. Yikes, that sounds unfair, and it feels like there's a lack of care and love, for real, for real. I may be missing comments. Yeah.
No, those two things are kind of back to back. Yeah.
Yeah, Ja, this topic hit. You should be more vulnerable more often, Ja. No, I'm good on it.
Yeah, we need to know that your heart beats with its natural parts and not mechanical sometimes.
No, like Omarion said, I got an ice box with my heart used because of therapy. Because it's dope. Look, bring back the heartbeat. Bring that pop locking back, man. Because of therapy, I came down from wanting to swing on him on sight to just having boundaries and keeping on. I gonna tell a little short story when we come back on air. I'm trying not to throw my parents under the bus. Just so you know, me and my father have reconciled for maybe a decade now. We did reconcile. He's actually coming, to spend time with the family for Thanksgiving. So yeah, that's a thing. So yeah. He want to see his children before he go back home. So we have reconciled. All right. It took a long time, and I was angry for a long time. But I feel like once you're able to talk things out and you can come to an agreement, and people actually admit what they've done, they've come to grips with what they did and how it affected you, I think you should be able to move on. If you choose not to, that's your choice, though. All right, you're about to come back. Let's do it. Yep. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of A Different Day with Jah and
Neci.
You are with us live on the #1 Virgin Islands radio station, 101.3 Raw FM. So, in case you didn't know, we do this every Sunday between 4 to 6 p.m. And we are also streaming live on the Same Difference YouTube, Same Difference Facebook, and the and the 101.3 Raw FM Facebook page as well. So you can tune in so many different ways. You can tune in through the TuneIn app, tune in obviously through the radio station or those other venues. So we're giving you chances, and you can also recap through those live streams because they stay up. All right. And if you want to join the conversation and add your comments or whatnot, you can do so through any of those live streams because the comments will always stay up and we do respond. All right. So what were we talking about? We were talking about Black men being angry because they may have been left without a father in the home. Now I'm playing a clip, but because it doesn't come out well on the radio, I'm gonna play it through the live, but we're gonna explain it to you.
When I was in therapy, he said, "Tell me about your father." And I said, "I'm angry because he left. I watched him leave my mother and marry another woman with 3 kids, and he become an all-American dad to them. And I'm his only son. Why did I have to deal with it? And I'm sharing that so you can say what you're angry about. And you may never get that apology, but brother, you got to deal with that anger, because if you don't, it's going to turn to rage. So I want to give you this opportunity for those that have it, yell it out.
Father, I thank you for this brother that's standing in this room. This brother that stood and says, I admit I'm wrestling with anger right now. Father, give him a peace that surpasseth all understanding to start the process of healing with this anger that sometimes can.
All right. So if you didn't quite hear what was going on, so it was a conference of men, and this is why it's important for men to have that fraternity. It's important for men to be able to come together with other men so we could connect and be men together, right? That's important. So it was what seems like a conference, or it may have been a church service where the men were talking about certain issues, and one of them that came up was the issue of being angry. Why? Because one of the men came and he admitted, I was angry because my father, I watched him leave my mother and end up being with a woman that had 3 children. And when he left, he became the best dad in the world. He became an all-star dad. And he was angry. And that anger, we all know, it manifests in ways that are always negative. And it can be a reason why so many of us, Black men, the only emotion that we know how to express in its entirety is anger and rage. So they prayed over him, you know, the brotherhood came together. And there's some comments because, like I was saying offline, I didn't really know how hard this would hit, but brothers are being vulnerable in the comments on the live stream. So we were talking also about that Fresh Prince episode where Will's dad had came back into his life, made all these promises. We going out on the road together because he was a trucker and all of this, and we gonna do this, and we gonna have fun, and all these promises he was making when Will about to be a man almost at that time, and then he left again. So he goes to Uncle Phil and he's like, "Why don't he want me, man?" And just breaks down. That scene there, whoo, that scene hits. That scene hits. Now the new Bel Air thing, I don't know if it hit the same, but that scene, man.
And you know that scene was not scripted.
What? Like he really felt that. He really did that.
He really did that in one shot.
Dang. Darren says, "Wow, that video cuts deep. My father not being present made me angry. Man's made a lot of promises that were not kept." Another commenter says, "That's crazy because I'm an only child by my father's side and we have a very rocky relationship. And I feel my son's grandmother holds that against me. And now I got to fight to be in my son's life." Listen, it's big. Well, that's in reply to another one. We're going to touch on that too. That Fresh Prince scene still hits the soul.
Mm-hmm.
I remember my first day of high school. I watched my pops drop his girlfriend kids to school while I waited for the school bus, and me and my friends was like, damn. And that when I read this comment, before I even finished it, I was like, damn. Because what can you say to that? Like you feel that for him. Like, man. Yeah, Jah, this topic hit. You should be more vulnerable often. I don't know about that. Because of she trying to bring it up, but I don't know. Because of therapy, I came down from wanting to swing on him on sight to just having boundaries and keeping out of my life. Now that anger can manifest towards the person. What a child tends to not understand, and they shouldn't, is that they're not responsible, right? It has nothing to do with them. Children don't understand that, but because they're children, they take it on. And like we were saying off air, we need to understand that children are the only innocent parties in breakups. They didn't cause it. They came into this world because of 2 people they had no control over. Right? But then when one party may end up leaving, they wonder what they did wrong. Why I can't be with you? Why don't my father want me? Why did my mother abandon me? They end up with abandonment issues, and I don't think we talk about the effect that it has on children nearly enough. While people having discussions about why being a single mom ain't bad and why it's okay, like why we ain't talking about the effect that a father leaving has. While you worried about child support and stuff like that, what about the support the child actually needs, which is you in their life? You complaining about paying hundreds of dollars a month, but you ain't worried about the effect this child will have later on in life, because childhood trauma follows you. But Neci, what do you have to say?
I mean, I think you're going into it, and I'm just here to be of a support. That vulnerability that we just were talking about, I don't want to intervene and just, do that thing, and I appreciate you so much, for being vulnerable today. I could give my opinion, but you're a man. You grew up in that situation. You're also a dad. So you have the foresight and the insight into both aspects of it.
There's some comments that I cannot repeat on here because it's getting violent. Okay.
But it just goes to show how deep the situation can go
Mhm.
and how much we would like and we do need the men in our community to address and to one, acknowledge that they do have a lot of anger towards their childhood situations, and two, having more opportunities and avenues where they can have those things addressed and worked on.
So now Adrena asked a question, and I think it's important that we weigh in on this, and you can weigh in because you are a woman. Adrena asked, how can women help the angry Black men that we do care about?
One of my things is really creating safe spaces for them. And women and I'm not saying Adrena specifically, I'm just saying as women, we tend to like to ask this question, but when the opportunity comes, we don't want to support it. And I want to be, because, sometimes if a guy's vulnerable, someone considered him to be soft, or a young man, or he's this and he's bad. But then if he can't be soft with you, who can he be soft with?
Thanks.
If he can't come home to his spouse and really put his head on your lap and just sigh and say he had a really rough day, or something triggered him that he has a hard time with, and he doesn't know that you can just support and comfort him in that moment, who is he supposed to do that with? Right. Now, some trauma we're not trained to deal with. So I don't want to put it all in our women's lap. Sometimes professional help is needed and should be sought out as well. So I want to make sure that I'm absolutely clear about that. But we should also be of support to them being able to find ways to release that energy. But being okay with how the process might look like. It's not for us, it's for them.
As for me, right? I don't believe it is your woman's responsibility to necessarily be your therapist, but going off of what you said, also, I think that it is a responsibility of your significant other, your helpmeet, you know what I'm saying? For you to be able to receive some things from me, like be able to receive my vulnerability. Now, mind you, I'm not talking about someone that cries for everything. I'm talking about someone who, like you said, they were having a rough day, or this thing made me think about my father. I need for Black women to be able to receive those things, because often Black men, we spend a lot of emotional effort receiving from you. We spend a lot of time, because women are known as the more emotional of the sexes. We spend a lot of time doing a lot of emotional heavy lifting. So when it's time for us to do some offloading, I think a lot of our women do not know how to make that switch. They're so used to doing the offloading that when it comes time to receive, it feels uncomfortable. They don't know how to respond. And I think that's what we need. We need for our significant other to be able to receive what we have to give without judgment. Because if we were to take that and give it to someone else, you would feel away. You get what I'm saying? Like, you can't want to be that for me, knowing that you can't, and then get upset when I take it somewhere else. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
Now, he might not take it somewhere negative. He may take it to a therapist, right? Which is a healthy avenue for him to release it. But some people would still get upset, because now that he's released that with someone else, he may not want to talk to you about it. Would you be okay with that? So you have to understand, if you can't receive it and he takes it somewhere else to offload it, don't get upset now that he does not want to do the same with you, because you've already rejected it.
No, I agree. And I think to just add to what you said is, for men, if you realize that you can't find that at home and you choose to find it somewhere else with the assistance that you need, just know that that journey is for you and for the betterment of you. Some women might try to manipulate you or use their emotional you know, their emotional state to persuade you. Like, oh, you don't need now. Like the journey that you need to take to better you is for you. And if hopefully your partner understands, you know, that this is for the betterment of your growth. Not everyone is, like you said, capable of being that person to do it for you, but they should be in support of you bettering yourself. I think that's the absolute thing that can, like, hey, I don't have the capacity to help you. I don't know how to. I don't know where to start, but I'm going to research and stuff. Do you want me to look up some places that may be able to help you? Do you want me to find some meetings that might be going on, or some books that you could read, or a therapist or a counselor or a men's group or whatever that may be? Like, I can help you with that, but not everyone is able to be that person at home either.
True. And you kind of, it takes self-awareness also to recognize that I'm not in a place where I can receive that. And that's why I try to be the person that asks, are you in a state to where you can receive what I have to give? Because some people, all they do is vent and offload. That is exhausting to be the person that receives also. Sometimes you're going through things and you're not in a position to receive. And that's okay, because our emotional states and how we're feeling and stuff, it changes all the time. That's how feelings work. They're not constant. All right. But we got another break coming up. Keep it locked. We got more topics for you on a different day with Jah and
Neci.
Keep it locked right here on the #1 U.S. Virgin Islands radio station, 101.3 Raw FM. All right, let me see what it's saying in the comments. Rudy Walker says, you hit the nail on the head, bro. Thank you. Loving your father is a commandment. Is it? Is it a command? One of the 10? That's one of the big 10? Somebody help me out. I feel like he's reading from the Torah. They're talking about beating up people in the chat, right? And how you know this is not what we do.
It is not, and we're doing a good job of micromanaging on the side.
Yeah, we promote healing here, not hurting. All right. I also remembered we both worked at Lime Tree. What, you and your father worked there? And he stopped me and asked why I don't bring my son to see him when I do get to see him. And I just told him I don't think it's right to force a child to be around someone he feels uncomfortable being around. Man, you shouldn't. Children know when they're uncomfortable, and you shouldn't. You right, the man. Like, Jamal, you're right. You should not force no child to be around somebody they're uncomfortable with, because children be knowing. And what you're doing when a child sets a boundary like that, I feel uncomfortable, I don't want to be around them, and you do it anyway, you send them to that person or you put them in that space anyway, you're teaching your child that your boundaries do not matter. Making other people feel comfortable is what matters. That's how you create people pleasers. I just learned that in a book about boundaries. So, yay.
I could love my parents, but I don't have to be around them.
Exactly.
I don't have to have them in my personal space if it's unhealthy for me and my children or my mental state. We have to listen. We have this total automatic control, right, of ourselves. Because you love a person, do not mean that they have unlimited access to you to play with your mental state. You need to be able to say, I love this, or I love you, but the scale should always be tipped in your favor, but I love me more. So it should always be, I love you, but I love me more. Yes, our parents gave birth to us. Yes, they raised us. Some of them did the best that they could, even if it was the worst that they could have done. But it does not necessarily mean you get an all access free pass out in my life.
Correct.
Some people don't even function properly like that. You really need to be able to have boundaries with some of our parents or siblings, whoever it may be, specifically because of this situation we're going to say our parents. So we're talking about the dad in particular, to be like, I know that's my father. I love my father, but I'm good. I'm good. I'm good because you have no interest in me. You should have interest in me, but you can't force someone to do something they don't want to do. And it's not easy to accept either.
No, that's very true. I do not download to my hubby, and I feel no need to with the support system I have. I believe he prefers me to exhaust my options before I interrupt his day. LOL. I would want him to have peace how he can get it. Hey, if that works for Ayo, that's Ayo vibe. You know what I'm saying? Like, keep that going as long as it works. So I mean, nobody should be judging it once it works. I think too often we say this is how a relationship should go, and we try to put that on everybody. That there's too many different personality types for us to say it's one way for a relationship to work, and this is what healthy looks like, and it done. We can't be doing that. Now, I do want to say something. So, oh man, the brother said loving your father is a commandment, which I'm not deep into the Bible enough to really know. So I questioned, is that what it says as a commandment? So Adrina says, yes, commandment number 4 is to love thy mother and father. So thank you for the correction. Now, with that being said, does that mean that you love them and treat them as your father and mother, even if they're not acting as a father and mother would, right? Like, does that mean they have access to you because you're supposed to love them as a part of a commandment? What does love thy father and mother mean to you? Is it ever appropriate to cut off a parent?
It is. There is absolutely many scenarios where it's absolutely appropriate to cut off your parents. Absolutely.
Now, some people would say no, right? You know, some people would be like, nah, man, that's family, that's blood thicker than water, and hit you with those things. The thing about that is, do y'all realize that is gaslighting? I wonder if people realize that telling people, hey, your abuser should be in your life and they should have access to you because they're your blood relative is gaslighting. That person's experience, you're negating it and you're dismissing their experience and saying, hey, it doesn't matter what they did to you, you should still give them access to you. They're your father, they're your mother. And did you know also that the term hurt people is also gaslighting? Did you know that? Because that term, that phrase is basically what people say after you say, I don't want to deal with this person no more. They've hurt me so many times. I don't want to go through it anymore. So they hit you with the hurt people, meaning you should dismiss what they've done and go ahead and let them back into your life anyway. That's gaslighting.
I think we have way too many examples, both in our surroundings, in the news, in the news in our community, etc., where we have seen that the parent is not because they're the parent means that we should have them in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
We've had children in our community lost their lives because of the parents that they have, and or lose their mental state or physical state or whatever that may be. People who are abused, and then you tell your parent and your parent don't believe you, and there's so many different aspects that could trigger a person into why they need to create hard boundaries or non-existent lines to lose contact with someone that they love. Yes, blood is thicker than water. Water can be manipulated and turned into blood. What are we really trying to do? They use water to make synthetic blood all the time. So we need to be very clear, like you said, about gaslighting people into when I'm having a hard time or a difficult time where I cannot function on my normal cylinders, mentally, emotionally, physically, mentally around my parent, that says a lot of things. There's some people who don't even go visit some of their parents or see them because of the things that they went through, and their parents are in denial of. A great example of that would be Kirk Franklin. Kirk Franklin's mom, he does not speak to her because she cannot accept the fact that who his real father is. Despite her requesting an additional paternity test in her presence, which he granted her and did, and the test results came out to be the same, she refused to believe that. And he said, well, my hands are up, I'm done with you.
Yeah.
And that's all he's wanted his whole life, was to know who his parents were. His mom was in his life from fairly young. He figured out who she was from early. And it has been, like he said, it has been a circus show since he found out who she was.
So she didn't even allow him to get that information. He had to finally, as a man, go seek the information himself.
The person that he presumed to be his father, that he thought was his father, and at the time he did not do DNA testing with the person because he had no reason to doubt that was his father, and the person passed as well. So he grieved the death of who he thought was his father until he went to a funeral and someone pointed out, like, hey, you look like so and so. You may be his son. And he said he could not shake the feeling. And he asked around the question, and he was able to speak with the person, and the person confirmed that he did know his mother, and they went through doing the whole DNA testing thing, and he was his real dad. And he told them he had no clue he existed. This man lived a couple blocks away from Franklin's studio his whole life.
The man need to do a DNA test between him and Playa students. They look too much alike.
And they gotta be brothers and these.
Cousins or something. Like, you know, they gotta do one of them too. So we're coming back in about 40 seconds. I'm trying to find some comments, and we're gonna transition into another topic after we come on air. We're gonna do one more topic before we end off, because man, time to be flying.
Yeah, we gotta end on a good downhill. We kind of started out real heavy.
Oh man, I hope you have your message, your positive message also for the end of the show, because I do have something that's kind of heavy at the end, but it's just, you know, it has to be done, I feel. But yeah, coming back in 5. What's going on? Thanks for tuning in to A Different Day with Jah and
Neci.
We're back with another episode. You were just listening to Come Through by Her featuring Chris Brown. Great song, by the way. So thank you. What we were talking about before the break, we were discussing the angry black man and why the lack of having a father could contribute to so many black men being angry, and why, or at least one of the contributing factors as to why anger seems to be the only emotion allowed. So we were having discussions, and it went into not just fathers, but parenting and, you know, gaslighting with. So I want to ask the listening audience a question, right? You out there in Radio Land. Now, I know obviously we can't hear your response, but just some thought. Is it ever okay to cut off a blood parent? We're not talking about an adopted parent. We're talking about your mother or your father. Is it ever a circumstance where cutting them off, in your mind, obviously, when is that ever okay? So we were talking about some circumstances where a parent, you know, they may, especially in our community, I find, so don't get me started on the church, because that's another thing. A parent can put a child in a situation where the child has already let the parent know, I don't like being around this person, but the parent still kind of forces them or pushes them to go ahead and interact, right? And that's a boundary issue, because when a child does that, the child is actually setting a boundary. So if the child sets the boundary, the parent sees it, hears it, and dismisses it, you're now possibly teaching your child that their boundaries don't matter. That can affect how they operate later on in life. Most likely, you could be creating a people pleaser because you've just shown your child that your boundaries don't matter. Making other people feel comfortable is what matters. So please keep that in mind. One of the commenters says on the Facebook live stream, I don't know why adults feel that a child has to be around an adult that makes them uncomfortable. Like I know my children and myself don't be around anyone that will bring toxic behavior to us. Jamal Burke says, the crazy thing is my son told his mom that my pops ain't his grandfather, and it freaked me out. But I understand where he was coming from, and it was obvious that Pop's energy wasn't matching Lil Man's energy. And yes, we both work line tree. So there was comments earlier from this particular commenter about, you know, his father, him seeing his father literally dropping off his girlfriend's kids while he waited without his father being there. And then later on, him and his father working in the same place. And his father asked him why he ain't bringing his grandson to him. So, I'm telling y'all, man, the Row FM Plus, the Facebook live stream, if you ain't on there, I'm not telling you to get off the radio because we love our listeners, right? But if you want to join the conversation and get the full extent of what we be talking about, especially in between breaks, that's where you need to be. All right. So the fifth commandment says, honor thy mother and thy father, that your years may be long on earth. And that's another reason why we ask the question, is it ever okay to go ahead and basically not give access to a parent anymore? I have definitely cut my father off. He can't enter my life. It is okay when it is necessary for your mental and emotional well-being. Some people are not safe or do not care about your experiences. Some of those people are related to you. Reconciliation, ? So reconciliation is possible, but we need to understand that some people need certain things in order to reconcile. Both parties need to agree before you can reconcile. It doesn't just be, oh, I want to reconcile. Okay, cool. No, for me, my father had to admit he had done some wrong things and it negatively affected me, and he had to change. He couldn't still be the same person before I allowed him access. You know what I'm saying? And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with reconciling. But keep in mind that some people will reconcile and they're still the same person. So what are you reconciling for if you're allowing the same negative person back into your life? What do you think will happen again? So you just allowed it because that's your parent, right? They have the title. Do they have the initiative? Are they behaving like a parent should? That doesn't matter. I sit with that one. Love can change a person. The love of a child can change a person. Some people put up walls to prevent certain types of love. Something that can be healed by the love of an innocent child cannot be reached before that child's innocence is gone. But that's my own opinion. John Watley says, you reconcile, it's still a commandment. Oh, man. You know, there are... Go ahead.
I'm just going to say not because two people have the ability to procreate and make a child means that they're going to treat this child well.
Correct.
And because we know what goes into making a child. So it's not all children were made out of love. Not all children will be raised in love, despite that they should be. So we need to just be very honest in today's society where that's just not humanly possible. People have their own traumas or experiences that they're dealing with. Some people are just heartless. Not because you make a child means that you want the child or you're going to care for the child, right? We've seen horrible moms. We've seen horrible dads. We just wish that more kids were raised in better homes. I think that's just the point. So I understand what the commandment says about loving your mother, your father. I love my parents very much. But some people aren't raised where love was even an option.
You see how the fact that the Bible is open for interpretation, how it can be used. So he's saying you reconcile, it's a commandment.
Mm-hmm.
What it says is to love and or honor your mother and your father. Can you do those things without granting them access into your life? I'm just asking the question. Do you have to give them access back into your life, or can you love them from a distance because they're negative? Where in the Bible does it say invite them to the house? Where does it say have them keep your children for the summer? Because reconciliation and forgiveness, first of all, does not mean access. Forgiveness is for you, not for them. And then that's why things like forgiveness and what it is, people closure, those things can be used against you. Forgiveness and closure are for you. You can forgive from a distance. You can get closure without the other person. You can get closure from a distance. You can forgive them and love them from over there in a safe place. Do y'all understand that there are parents that have abused their children in every sense of the word? And you're going to tell them it's a commandment, reconcile. So you mean to tell me you would tell a child to reconcile with their abuser if they were not their parent? Would you say the same thing? Hey, we're getting heavy. Yeah. Woo! Thank you. We getting heavy today. It says, fire burn our Babylon. Babylon. Oh man, we getting heavy today. And this is not against the commenter, you know. I'm just posing those questions because we need to think. Some people, when I reply, they think that I'm going at them. I'm not. We need to really think this thing through. So you're gonna tell somebody that's been abused. And yes, your parent can be your abuser as well. You're going to tell them, go ahead and reconcile. The Bible says so. Do y'all understand? That's why some people reject the church, man. Because the church and church folk have told them the same thing. Do y'all understand that people trusted the Roman Catholic Church and how many multi-billions of dollars they're paying out? And then the people have told those same children that were abused to go back to the church, man. Yeah, man, that's basically what it's gaslighting. I really have an extreme opinion about Bible and commandments, but I'll keep it to myself. Drina says, it says to honor them. Do you need to physically meet their accessibility needs to honor the parents God gave in the grand scheme of your own life? Good question. Do you? That's what I'm asking. Do you? Is that what it says? Or is that what you're interpreting? Or is that also your own experience with your parents that you're now projecting onto someone else? My parents, I would never cut them off. So you don't need to cut yours off either, even though those experiences are completely different.
Sure.
All right. Woo. Well, let's lighten this, man, before we go. I like to laugh. Let's lighten this up. Well, which one should we go to? Which topic should we transition to? The love is blind thing, or that gonna upset people some more? What do you think? Hey, I don't know this about Neci, right? But she'll be trying to set me off, you know, because she sent me this thing today, right? That she know. That she absolutely knew would set me off. And man, that's probably why things are intense today. So I could blame Neci for that, man. But Bible says a lot of things that are bad. I want to know if John doing them. Man, stop calling people's name in the comments. yo, yo, Love is Blind season 7 is wild. All right, Love is Blind it is. Let's do it. You see, we becoming prepared, and we got a ton of topics, so we had to choose. But we gonna hopefully this gonna lighten it, man. Got me, you know. All right, so I gonna play this. It's 3 clips. Total maybe 2 minutes. All right. So listen up, folks.
I have a lot to say.
Okay.
Some things happen in regards to my parents that I didn't really appreciate.
Like?
What would you like me to tell you?
Yeah, for sure.
I understood you were sleepy, but my parents drove up here 10 hours to meet you. And as soon as the cameras cut, you decided to go to sleep at the first opportunity. These are the most important people in my life. And all I have left in this world. And the choice you made in that moment was to go to sleep.
Okay.
And to me, it is telling.
Okay.
Because that's just not a choice that I would ever make.
Okay.
I'm not here to tell you how to live your life, but for me, that was not okay.
Given such a negative response, a temper tantrum sometimes, like an attitude, I just don't understand it. If it's about the dishes, if it's about me going to sleep, if it's about a text, all of that, it's the slap in the face.
Great. I'm glad you feel that way. There's a lot I could respond to, but there is no scenario that I see myself standing there and saying yes to making you my wife forever. And with that in mind, and I'm glad we can at least agree that I don't ever want to see you again.
He didn't break up with her because she wanted to take a nap. The nap was the straw that broke the camel's back. I broke up with a man over a bag of candy. It was actually about a post about a bag of candy. And it wasn't the candy. It wasn't the post. It was the last straw of many events where, you know what? I don't want to be here no more. I can't believe that this is this complicated. I can't believe that we have to have a discussion about this. I can't believe that you don't see what is going on. I can't believe that you keep doing it. I broke up with a man over a bag of candy. It wasn't the nap. It was the last straw.
All right. Neci, can you explain for our listeners, 30 seconds, real quick, can you explain what just happened?
I just want to say, so what happened in the video is he was clearly, effectively, and calmly explaining to her in his communication what his issues were that she were doing that significantly bothered him and that made him ultimately decide that he could not say yes to her at the altar to make her his wife. And he left.
All right.
The reason why he said,
all right, keep it locked here on a different day. We'll be right back after these messages. Go ahead.
And the reason why he said no ultimately wasn't a big reason, but because of all the other things that happened before, like the lady said, that was the last straw for him.
So, the feedback is mixed, as it usually is. I've seen people agreeing and congratulating, and him for standing on business. And I've seen one video where the lady said he is the devil for breaking up with a woman like that. And like Darren says, that was harsh. Wow.
No, I mean, yes, him saying no to her sounded harsh. But when I sent you the first, I think that was the first clip I sent you, initially. And I had to go back and look and see what got him to that point, why he said no. And the reason what she was doing, I was like, why you break up with her? It's like, you're up, and I was like, that makes no sense. And I went back to see what else was going on. And I think the biggest thing for him was his parents. He had expressed from the jump, they are the most important people in his life. They're all that he had left. And he holds them in high regard. And he saw a potential future with her. And his parents drove 10 hours to come meet her. And at the first opportune moment when the camera stopped rolling, she walked off, left, and went to sleep. She didn't even announce it. She wasn't like, oh, I'm going to, she just went to sleep. And his parents felt away about it, which understandably so. But she made it seem like, well, I'm sleepy. What we do? You don't want me to go to sleep if I'm sleepy? Like, she didn't. So he was like, you know they were coming. You know they were driving 10 hours. Why didn't you knock before they get here? It's really what the point he was trying to make.
Yes.
She wasn't really hearing it.
Yeah. So commenter asked, but people can't go to sleep. So like the lady said in her response video, right? It's more than just the sleep. I've seen other comments and they're talking about, oh, she was a slob and this, that, and the third. Like her effort, her lack of effort was the last straw. That's really what it is. And it seemed like I'm so surprised by how people can't understand. And I'm not trying to cause no conflict, man or woman, gender war type thing, but I really wonder, is it because seeing a man actually standing on it and saying, this is enough, I'm done right now, I've had enough, if that is what's really triggering? Because I guarantee you, had it been reversed, and a woman had said, it wouldn't have mattered the reason. They would have cheered her on. Because, oh, I done with you, I done. But you got to understand that some people, or there is a last straw. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yes.
It may seem dumb because it happened now. But what people don't understand is little niggling things over time, they add up because you still remember them, you know. You see consistent patterns, and it was just, this was the last one. There was too much at that point. I've added up all these times and I'm done. Because if not, and the fact that he ended it right before they got married is him saying, hey, if you're doing it now, you're going to do it then. People get married hoping that once they put on the ring, things going to change. He did the opposite, which I applaud him for. He stopped it then. He saw the patterns and he said, you know what? If you're doing this to people that I honor and cherish, you see, honor and love, then you're going to continue to do it, and it doesn't matter when. God knows if after we get married, when going to be the next time you do something like this here. It could be I'm up for a big promotion and use my representative, and you do something crazy then, and I lose that. Because patterns matter. That's what people that are say, my past doesn't matter. Watch out for them, you know. Your past absolutely matter. Tell the people who to track your credit score. Tell the people who to keep track of your car payments and stuff like that, that your past doesn't matter. Ask people, when you go to court, right? They look into your past because it shows a pattern. And it is a likely thing that if you have a pattern of doing something, you're probably going to do it again. We're coming back. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of A Different Day with Jah and
Neci.
So we're back with more topics, and this topic is on the Love is Blind, what is it, season 7 episode, where Neci's gonna break it down for you what happened. Please tell the listening audience what actually happened here.
So in the clip, the gentleman, he broke up with his fiance prior to them making it to the altar. To me, he was very calm, very effective, very clearly explaining what the issues were. He even took accountability on his part where he could have done things better, but ultimately ended the relationship prior to the altar. And so people felt that he was wrong for doing that. But I really want to ask the question. I wanted a month to break up with she at the altar. Because I value him more because he do it on my couch before I get resolution to the altar. I respect him a whole lot more. Ain't no way.
And she went right back to eating in the clip after he said.
Exactly. And that was the other thing where, to me, when he's having conversations with her, she doesn't even look like she's like invested in these conversations to really like hear him and understand. She's just there because she's just there. And if you think back to the last season, I think it was season 6 when Katie broke up with AD at the altar in her wedding dress, and people were like, why did he wait till
Exactly.
he should have altar to tell her no? He could have did it before. This is exactly what this guy did. He told her no before they even got to the altar, got ready for the altar, because he saw enough red flags on his part where he knew that is not someone I would make my wife.
So, Marcus asked, was Hannah fair for breaking up with the real estate agent who lived with his parents? I'm gonna be honest, I don't watch none of this stuff. I don't watch reality TV, and quite frankly, none of them relationships are lasting. If you notice, once you go on a reality TV show, your relationship is pretty much on the downslope by then. Like, even if you were happy before, chances are it's gonna end. You know why I think it is? Because you're allowing other people to weigh in on your entire life and relationship. And you know what those people, those producers do? They take the most toxic, weird, raunchy, like they pick clips and they piece them together in such a way that people will talk about it. So even if you had something good, the way that they're going to present it, chances are it's going to be bad once it airs. All right? Exactly. That's what gets views. So I don't watch it. I don't know about that. And we were talking about the last straw, right? So in the clips, I should say, the man had his parents, who he loves dearly, told the girl, they're everything in the world to me. They're all I have left. They're driving 10 hours. You know what 10 hours is? Ladies, most men won't drive 10 hours to come see you. His parents are driving 10 hours to come see her. The camera stopped rolling. She goes and takes a nap. So she doesn't take the nap before they get there. She waits until they get there. Then he does. What happened with the washing dishes? Like, he did a whole bunch of stuff for her and came back and she didn't even wash the dishes.
Yeah, so what he did was he did a lot of the cleaning and keeping the place clean and tidy, and she does not to me, she doesn't present like a very clean person. He seems cleanliness seems to be up on his top of his priorities for him, which is another reason he broke up with her, right? And he did this big cleaning, which he said he doesn't mind doing and helping to participate in keeping the home clean. So he did this big cleaning and then he forgot some things, and then he went out to grocery shop, if I'm not mistaken. And by the time he goes and comes back a couple hours later, there's a mess. And she's just there like it's no big deal. And what I do like about him the most, I would say, there was not a lot of like yelling and screaming at his mom. He didn't speak down to her, or he wasn't derogatory towards her or anything like that. To me, he was pretty clear in expressing himself. He could have done better in certain areas, but who couldn't, right? Yeah. But for me, for the most part, he was very articulate with what his needs are, what he likes, what he doesn't like, what his issues are. And she sat there for the most of those conversations. It was just like a head nod. She's eating something. She's like, Yeah. And I think the last thing that she did, it wasn't a big thing. It was just like, he was just like, yeah, I can't marry you.
Yes.
And he does. So people are upset because he broke up with her and of what he said. But do you prefer this, or do you prefer him telling you no at the altar? That's really my question, because I prefer what he did.
Exactly.
Doing it at the altar.
And again, considering how that went, right? It may seem harsh when he was like, yeah, I don't ever want to see you again. But that was the ending of it. And he cut it abruptly. He did give her an opportunity to speak, right? What does she do? She goes straight into gaslighting him. Oh, you're making this about a nap and this and that. And so he listened intently to what she had to say. He presented his points. This was the thing that I had issues with. This is how it made me feel. He didn't get loud, nothing. He then listened to what she got to say. When he heard her gaslighting, he didn't argue, because y'all love to call men sassy when they argue with a woman, right? He didn't argue. He literally said, there are some points that I could respond to, but I won't. You know what I'm saying? Because he realizes at that point, responding to these things that really aren't even the issue, all it's going to do is derail the conversation, and you really ain't even trying to have the conversation, and cut it off. That's it. That's what I saw. However, These short clips got people making response videos and he's the devil and this and that. So it makes me wonder, is it because it's a man ending the relationship that makes it seem so bad? Because I've seen women like talking about how they don't want a man. Oh, I don't want to clean up after the man, this, that, and the third. Women spend all this time doing majority of the household chores and stuff, which is true by the numbers. But here you have a man talking about basically the same thing and ending the relationship because of it, and he's attacked for it. That don't make no sense to me. I learned 3,000% today, LOL. I love that video and can't wait to get to that episode. I respect anyone who calls off the wedding before the altar. I mean, that makes sense. And we need to keep in mind, right, that patterns. This wasn't just because she took a nap. It was because she consistently showed her lack of effort, and this was the last straw she was going to get. You know that these people mean a lot to me. I would think that you want to impress them. You didn't even put that effort in. Great. Past negative behavioral patterns must be broken. If you made it clear to someone that this is a negative pattern, I notice, hey, you know, it's something I can't deal with. If they continue to do it after that, you should cut it off. You get what I'm saying? Like, people like to say, oh, the past is the past and all of that. When you don't know someone, their past behavior is the best indicator of their future behavior. If you notice a pattern with someone, that's what they're used to. Humans are creatures of habit and routine. If they're doing it before, they're going to continue to do it. So why wouldn't I pay attention to your past? That makes sense? If you talk to a dude and every single girl he's been with, he cheated on, and he tell you, don't worry about my past, is it smart to go ahead and believe what he just told you or believe his past patterns?
I ain't them girls. I different.
He gonna have my baby and everything gonna be smooth. Right? That makes sense? Think. You know what I'm saying? Like, that makes sense? No, everything else, when you go for a job, what they want? Your employment history, your education history, they want your history. When you go to the doctor, what do they look for? Your medical history. When you apply for a loan, you try to get a car, a house, anything, what do they ask for? Your credit history. But in a relationship, you shouldn't worry about their history? Yeah, Yo, stay relaxed with that. It's the past is the past business. Okay, the past could become the present real quick.
You know, I thought we were ending on a good note, but clearly all of these riled you up all over again.
Man, look, we still got 3 minutes. It's fine. We still have time to finish smoothly. All right. So I got one more thing that I need to say, and then we will end on a positive note. So I apologize in advance. All right. So let me recenter. All right. So what I would like to ask all the prayer warriors out there, please, 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 I'm asking for your prayers and only your prayers to the families of Aaron Brewer and Malika George. Just yesterday, they had a celebration of life for Aaron Brewer, who unfortunately, his battle with leukemia, his years-long battle with leukemia, it ended October 11th. I'm asking that you pray for strength, guidance, wisdom, and healing as they go through what's going to be a lifelong battle for someone that was an amazing young man. He was a brother, a son, a friend, beloved in his community, and he leaves behind a fiance that is heartbroken. So please, I'm asking for prayers. If you want to donate, you got to contact the family. That's different. All I'm asking for right now is your prayers because the family will need it. All right? But please, end us off in something positive. I hope you have a positive message.
I just want to say condolences to him and his family, and I will definitely put them in my prayers. But for our message of the week this week is, your morning thoughts set the tone for your entire week. Visualize yourself getting ready working smarter, and living a more fulfilling, happier, and healthier life. No one deserves it more than you, so aim for it.
I love that. I love that. What I want to say is tomorrow is the start of most people's work week. And I know, people tell you to be humble, just go in and do the work. This week, I want you to recognize who you are to exist in your power. Strut into work, puff up your chest, get enough sleep tonight, wake up ready and focused to face your day and go out and win. I want for everyone that can hear my voice today, go in and walk into their workspace, puffed up like a game. You get what I'm saying? Like really strut and remember who you are and live in your power. It doesn't matter what your job is, what you're doing. Remember who you are, live in your power. We're here to do more than just exist. As for me, I want to live a little before I die. So I expect for you all to do the same. So if you can hear me, do that tomorrow, starting tomorrow and continue. All right. This has been another great episode of A Different Day with Jah and
Neci.
Get with us again next Sunday between 4 and 6. We love you all. Peace.
Peace.
Whew. Tanisha said, missed the whole show. Why? Why is my question? Why you do that?
First of all, don't do it.
You just want some pasta. Relax.
Actually, I have not asked for pasta since I had pasta.
Yeah. We don't talk about what you just had. But hey,
I love her.
hey, everybody in the comments, please share this live. Tell your friends about A Different Day with Jah and Neci. This was a great episode, and it's partially because of you. We appreciate all the engagement. Tune in every week. We're getting bigger and better, and our topics are gonna keep coming. And if you have any topics, feel free to DM Same Difference or Crucian Gal Neci. All right, thanks for joining. We love you guys. Peace. Till next week.